Hey guys, what's up? It's about 3:10 in the afternoon on this Thursday, the day after Valentine's Day. A um yeah, either the day after Valentine's Day. Welcome everybody. Um yeah, first of all, I want to say that my prayers and condolences go out to the families of the victims of the school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Honestly, this is something that shouldn't have happened. I can't really say any more than my prayers and condolences. Go out to you guys, and all I can say is that whatever this kid's motive was, being expelled shouldn't be a motive. It shouldn't be a reason. I can't really say any more than that. But again, my prayers and condolences go out to the families and friends of the victims. Again, being expelled shouldn't be a reason to go and do what he did. And all I could say is if the results of the reason that he did it were mental, then a mental reason, like something wasn't right up here, then I don't know what else to say. Because you would think that people like that should get the help that they need. If you know there's something wrong, mentally, maybe you need to have them either in a special ed program or something to kind of help them. But I'll give them some kind of therapy or psychology. But again, being expelled, even with someone that has mental problems, being expelled shouldn't be a reason to do what he did. And again, my prayers and sympathies and condolences go out to the families and victims. Okay, now I do want to talk about, of course, as the live discussion here says, I want to talk about some recent movie trailers that have come out over the past couple of days, past weeks. And to say a lot of them have gotten some mixed reactions, some positive reactions, would be saying a lot because, not every trailer, teaser trailer, sneak peek, is going to tell us everything we want to know. Because basically, if it was to tell us everything we want to know, what's the point of seeing the movie? But let's talk about the first one that came out about a week or two ago. And this is for Ant-Man and Wasp. According to what I understand, Ant-Man and Wasp, from what initial reports have said, is supposed to be some kind of like a comedy. It's a fantasy sci-fi action film, superhero film. But from what they're talking about when it was first discussed and first talked about, uh, what they're what they're getting at here is Ant-Man and Wasp. It's gonna, it's gonna be a Marvel part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's supposed to be more light in tone. Like it's supposed to be a little bit more comedic and fun than some of the other ones. Um, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's going to be like Guardians, where Guardians was mostly at times comedic but can be dramatic. It was that perfect blend of what a superhero film should be. But it's supposed to obviously be more comedic, tend more to a comedic side. And Paul Rudd apparently is part of this. Apparently helped write the screenplay for it. So, and he's supposed to be a good comedic actor when need be. So we'll just have to see what they do. Um, I mean, just the trailer itself kind of gave you a good idea of what it could be like. I could see Elizabeth. I mean, not Elizabeth, but and what's her name? Uh, I can see Evangelican, Evangelican Lily. I can see Lily. I'm just going to go by her last name, Evangelican Lily, as Hope Pym. I could see her character being portrayed as being a little bit mischiefy, because you got to remember at the end of the first film when Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas, revealed the Wasp costume to her. She was like, the last line she had was, "It's about damn time." And again, I didn't fully watch Ant-Man just yet, but it's almost like, just from what people have described by that, it's almost like she had a very mischiefy like reaction, like, yeah, it's about damn time. And I guess from what I could tell, there's going to be a romantic, just like with Ant-Man, and here there's going to be some kind of romantic connection between the two. If it's true to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or true to Marvel overall, then there's going to be a romantic connection between the two. Um, and if there is, I think hopefully if Paul Rudd's helped with the screenplay, and just by that, I would assume mischievous reaction that Hope Pym, Angelica's character, gave at the end of Ant-Man, that hopefully might we might get some scenes there, mischievous fun, some mischievous like scenes with her testing out the suit, shrinking, growing, shrinking, growing. Just having fun with it. So hopefully we might get some comedic moments, some fun moments with that. Uh, my thought process on it is, there's this one issue. I don't know if it's Avengers, or I think it's an Avengers issue or something, where basically they don't show much, but basically you see, in a sense, Hope, and you see Wasp and Ant-Man doing the thing, if you know what I'm saying. There's this couple of panels, and I think Ant-Man says at the end that, because Ant-Man shrunk down, he's underneath the sheets, doing his thing to her, and then he appears from under there, and he says something like, "It's her turn," like it's her turn to shrink down and give him some fun, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do that with this, because this is a Marvel film, in a sense, a Disney film. But if it's going to be PG-13, I think Disney has pretty much proven that they will risk a little bit. They won't go too overboard, but I could definitely see Disney playing, maybe, mind you, maybe playing this up, uh, maybe playing to that scene a little bit, or doing something along those lines, to where you'll have something similar to that. Not like what you. I would assume almost, mind you, it'll be homage to that, something that we saw in that Avengers comic. So you might see something like that either in the middle of the film, or maybe even towards the end of the film. We don't really know. But I wouldn't put it past Disney to at least do something in that manner, to where they both have fun romantically with the powers and stuff. So it'll be it'll be interesting to see. As far as the villain goes, let me see who that villain is. Just out of curiosity. Okay, it's written by Paul Rudd, so it's going to have some comedicness, I think, in it. So Paul Rudd, from what I understand, can do comedy, so it's going to have a little bit of that. See. Yeah, they're gonna have some fun here. Trying to see. Because, like I said, I read somewhere that they want to try to make it a little bit more lighthearted. Okay, so maybe he's not much of a comedic actor, but he's been from what I understand, he's been associated with that. Yeah, comedian. That's what it is. American actor, comedian, writer, and producer. So I'm trying to see. He's done Cider House Rules, Halloween, and comedy films. Here we are. Comedy films: Clueless, White Hot American Summer, Anchorman, Legend of Ron Burgundy, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, Role Models, I Love You Man, Dinner with the Schmucks, or for the Schmucks, Our Idiot Brother, Wonderlust, This Is 40, Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. So he did pretty much a lot of comedy. So I think that's what they want to go with when it comes to Paul Rudd in this role. That he's gonna bring a little bit more comedicness to it. So hopefully, we might, like I say, get a. What was I trying to say? We might, like what I was trying to say earlier, is we might hopefully maybe get an homage to something like that. Hopefully, someone mentions that to him and he works it in somehow. He's able to be allowed to work that in a bit. Excuse me. See. Excuse me. Michelle Pfeiffer is going to be in the movie. Who? That might be interesting. That may be interesting. But anyway, it looks like it's going to go for more of that super. It's going to be, I think, on the veins, not maybe in the same category, but it's going to be more along those same lines of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where it's a superhero film. It's going to have its dramatic moments and stuff. It's serious and dramatic moments, maybe some dark moments, but it's going to be mostly comedy. It's mostly going to have a overall comedic feel. Is what I think. What I'm trying to say is it's going to have more of a comedic feel. Like you're going to have their moments, dramatic, dark, serious, but the overall feel is going to be lighthearted. Like it's going to be more comedic than before, and than maybe the last one. So we'll have to see what happens. But overall, it looks all right. Looks good. And I think because it takes place after Avengers 3 comes out, Avengers Infinity War, it's going to tie into Avengers 4, the last Avengers. So expect Ant-Man and Wasp to show up in the fourth Avengers somehow. All right. The other one that came out was Venom. Now, not many people were excited by what the teaser trailer gave us, but Venom is supposed to be more of a superhero film that's more connected to the it's supposed to play more into a horror side of things. From what I understand. Trying to see here. But yeah, that's what they that's what I understand is it's supposed to be more horror wise. It's supposed to be more basically according to Wikipedia, it's an upcoming American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. But from what I understand as well, it's supposed to be more in that kind of horror like setting, but not totally horror. Because according to a leak, apparently that won't be the case. I mean, you might get some horror elements, but that's about it. You might even get Carnage in there. We're not really sure. Or at least maybe at the end of the film, we might get a sneak peek of Carnage showing up. Again, we're not totally sure about. I'm not totally sure about that or not. But all I know is that not a lot of people were happy with the teaser trailer. It's like many people are kind of like Tom Hardy, who plays Eddie Brock, Venom. They just call it Tom Hardy the movie because that's all it is. That's all it is to them. See, but yeah, according, I know I read it somewhere, but basically it's supposed to be more along the lines of horror. So it might get an R rating. Maybe I'd be surprised if it gets a PG-13 rating, but from what I understand, it's supposed to probably be R. That's what I'm thinking. It's going to be an R-rated film. And the reason it's going to be R-rated, most likely, if it does get that rating, and of course, this being Venom, and of course, it wants to be more horror than anything. Well, not horror, but more darker than I think any Marvel film we've had in a while. Let's see. See. Yeah, but it was supposed. Basically what I'm getting at is not a lot of people when it came to the teaser trailer were too happy because they didn't see Venom. All they saw was Tom Hardy, and that was it. I'm gonna assume that when Avengers comes out, that's when we're gonna get another trailer for Venom. That's what I'm thinking is gonna happen. It's either gonna be when Avengers comes out or Ant-Man and Wasp. That's when you're gonna get another trailer. Now, apparently, Venom is supposed to be the first in Sony's Marvel universe. Yeah, Sony's Marvel universe. And according to Wikipedia, it's supposed to be the Sony's Marvel universe is to be in adjunction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What does that mean? Well, let's see. I'm trying to find it. I know they did something. No, they mentioned it somewhere. Okay, according to some notes, this is notes that were taken that Wikipedia put down. It says Marvel Studios is not involved with this film and does not plan to integrate it with the MCU. This is by Kevin Fergan. And this was from ScreenGeek.net. But Sony does consider it to be set in the same world as MCU films such as Spider-Man: Homecoming, with producer Amy Pascal describing Venom as being adjunct to to that world. In other words, in other words, let's say Tom Holland shows up in Venom as Spider-Man, and somehow, or something like that. Okay, for now there is no plans for Venom in the MCU. It's a Sony project. But doesn't so basically that means there could potentially be plans for it in the future, according to Kevin Feige, but right now there are no plans. But according to Amy Pascal, Venom is going to be a junction. It will be a junction to that world. In other words, he'll be connected to it, but he won't like cross paths with Iron Man, with Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, or Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, or Chris Helmsworth's Thor, or Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, and so on. He won't come in contact with them. It'll be its own thing. Now, the reason for that, the reason for that, according to what I understand, is the Sony Marvel universe. Okay, the Sony Marvel universe is supposed to be intended to be more mature. Hold on for a sec. I'll be right back. Well, so I gotta get my laundry go. Gotta get my laundry here. I had to dry some laundry. Hey, folks, sorry about that. Had to get some laundry out and everything. That was drying and washing and kind of deal. But again, according to what I was saying, Sony apparently is creating their own Marvel universe, but it's a Marvel universe that connects to the MCU, but not in a sense to where, um, like I said earlier, as of right now, there would be no connection. There would be no meetups between, um, the MCU characters and and the uh, and the characters that Sony's going to have in their Marvel universe. I mean, people are saying it won't actually connect, although there will be okay, it'll be basically in the same world. I mean, according to TheVerge.com, they have something out here. It says Sony and Marvel's Spider-Man deal may create one universe but two worlds. Here's what they're talking about. They talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming, which came out last year. Here, basically, they talk about it being a huge deal for the Hollywood studio system. Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures share the rights to the raw color, meaning Spidey can appear in the major Marvel projects, while Sony develops its own franchise around the character and his supporting cast. But there's confusion. But there's some confusion as to how this will all work in practice. Homecoming exists squarely in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the massive storytelling vehicle that ropes all the Marvel Studios' major movie superheroes into one interconnecting narrative. Sony is working on Venom and Silver and Black. Silver and Black being a Silver Sable, Black Cat movie, which don't fit into that continuity. And Sony has Sony has every intention of building out of its own MCU. What it says here, and Sony has every intention of building out its own MCU, focusing on Spider-Man characters that won't cross over into other Marvel properties. Now they go on to say that this is all weird and doesn't have any filmmaking precedent beyond the most curious cameo events like Disney and Warner Brothers characters appearing in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But there's an easy way to think about what Marvel and Sony are trying to pull off. Spider-Man and his universe do technically exist in the MCU, but as a kind of unincorporated territory. That's what they said. His operating grounds have inherent ties to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, since he's appeared in Captain America Civil War, while Marvel Cinematic Universe characters will appear in Homecoming. But the rest of his world will operate independently. Easy for me to say, hold on. It's a complex game of rights management, and even the logistics work. Okay, it's a complicated game of rights management, and even the logistics work. There's no telling whether the resulting movies will be good. Much to the confusion surrounding Sony's Marvel Universe, comes from seemingly uh, contradictory statements from Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige and Spider-Man executive producer Amy Pascal. In an interview with film site with a film site, Ferg said no plans to include Venom in the MCU right now. That is Sony's project. However, in an interview with Film Starts, Pascal said, well, those movies, like Venom, will all take place in the world that we're now creating for Peter Parker. They will all be adjuncts, uh, adjuncts to it. There may be different locations, but it will still all be in the same world. They will all be connected to each other as well. Pascal later waffled whether Spider-Man himself will appear in these separate outings. But the fact that Sony is creating a world around Peter Parker is the key statement. Peter is becoming a fixture in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Homecoming already acknowledges the presence of the Avengers. But even if Spider-Man doesn't appear in a given story, his actions could have far-reaching impacts on the characters around him in a way that allows for whole movies to crop out without him as the star. That makes sense from a character standpoint. This is from TheVerge.com, remember. Venom, in particular, is a dark reflection of Spider-Man. It'd be odd to entirely separate their stories, especially since they share most of the same powers: super strength, agility, and sticking to walls. But placing them in the same conceptual universe means that the New York where Peter Parker and most of the supporting cast live must be the same across both Marvel and Sony films. And yet Sony's stories won't cross over. The thinking is that Spider-Man, whose rogues gallery is one of the most recognized in comics, can sustain its own separate ongoing story continuity. So Ferg and Pascal are both right. Spider-Man can be an MCU character without Venom showing up in the MCU. Okay, Spider-Man can be an MCU character without Venom showing up in the MCU. That's something of a aim. Venom has crossed paths with multiple Marvel superheroes over the decades, and the idea that he might have an on-screen run-in with Iron Man is enticing. But Sony's hold over the rights means he, along with Black Cat and Silver Sable, will have their own stories that the Avengers will probably never be a part of, unless the studio deal changes at some point in the post-Infinity War future. Marvel Studios already uses a similar template for its television projects. Netflix series like Daredevil and Iron Fist all exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but don't interact with the film's continuity in any meaningful way. Agents of Shield has Agents of Shield had deep ties to the film early in its run, but after Captain America: The Winter Soldier brought about the dissolution of Shield, the show hasn't shown much of a connection to the film universe, and Inhumanoids, which started out as a movie project, is getting its own self-contained series, which it already did, this fall. The core of all of this has to do with how rights are shared between Marvel film and TV divisions, but the effect is that Agent Collusion and Daredevil have stories of so self-contained that they don't ever have to collide with Iron Man. So what that basically means, is that just like what ABC is doing with Agents of Shield, just like Sony is doing with their Marvel shows, just like Hulu does with Runaways, and uh, just like brain fart here, sorry, and just like ABC does with Agents of Shield, basically they will all be within the same world and universe. They just won't interact unless down the line, unless down the line they decide to change the deal up, like I say in the article, and go in a direction that finally allows it to happen. But there is a difference. There is a big, big difference. And I'm going to read you that right now from the Spider Man Films Wiki. Now, according to this, Sony's Marvel Universe will start with Venom. It will go and continue with Silver and Black, which is Black Cat and Silver Sable, Night Watch, and then Morbius the Living Vampire. Excuse me. Now, you might say, well, what does this all mean? Well, it's real simple. If I can look at it here, I've read it somewhere. Yeah. Basically, basically what I read is that, since Venom potentially, okay, so Venom and potentially some other ones, the other movies that I just mentioned, may be R rated, maybe getting an R rating, like I mentioned earlier. The reason being is because from what I read somewhere, I don't know if someone re-edited it or what, but basically, basically from what I read originally on Wikipedia and elsewhere, the Sony Marvel universe, which is going to be contained within the Spider-Man continuity for right now, where you'll get Silver Sable and Black Cat together, you'll get Morbius, you'll get Nightwatch, and several others. Sony's Marvel universe is going to be darker and more mature. It's going to be darker in tone. It's going to be more violent. It's basically going to be the R rating. It's basically going to be Sony's. How do I put this? When Amy Pascal says it's going to be a junction to the Spider-Man world, to the MCU, she's right. But it's going to be a junction because they will be separate. They will basically be within the same continuity, the same world, but by being in the same world and not connecting means they will have more freedom in a sense to do what they want with the movies and the characters. And that even means the movies that will be based around them and starring them will be R rated. That's right. According to several sites here, like Collider, Venom is probably going to get an R rated film. Let's see here. Yeah, according to Collider, the R-rated film. So they're going for an R rating with Venom. Now, does that mean Silver and Black, which is the Silver Sable Black Cat movie, is that going to be R-rated? Well, let's just put it this way: if they end up having Silver Sable and Black Cat, if they have, let's put it this way: if Silver Sable and Black Cat, which comes out a year from now, a little less than a year, basically about a year from now, if there is a scene or so in there where Silver Sable and Black Cat get it on, if you know what I mean, similar to, let's say, what we got with Atomic Blonde, then yeah, I could see Silver and Black getting an R rating. I can, because I think it would be foolish in a sense for them not to probably attempt something like that. Because if you're gonna, if Silver and Black is gonna feature and center itself around Silver Sable and Black Cat, two anti-heroes, if you will, two anti-hero or anti-protagonists, or whatever you want to call them, or anti-hero heroines, then yeah, I could see them doing that. I could see them doing that. I don't know if the actresses portraying Silver Sable and Black Cat are going to be all on board with it, but if it's just for maybe one or two scenes, and it's like I say, it's similar to maybe what we got with Atomic Blonde, then I could see them doing it, and I could see that definitely mixing in with that whole, okay, these are more darker, mature films that are more noteworthy of having an R rating given to them. So yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Like even Todd McFarlane, who's known for Spawn, is hoping that Venom will be a nasty R rating. In other words, be very violent. We'll have to wait and see. See ya. Yeah, and that to me, I'm just reading this from comicbook.com, and according to what they said, of course, the only teaser we've gotten so far is the short teaser with Tom Harding for Venom. But they do mention that even though Venom and Silver and Black are currently in development, and more movies are expected to be announced as Sony cinematic plans expand, fans shouldn't be too surprised if the studio confirms plans for some R-rated Marvel ventures in the coming months. It says, according to comicbook.com, recently Variety did a profile on Sony Pictures and its growing ideas for a cinematic universe. The in-depth piece source quotes the in-depth piece source quotes from studio execs, and the site compared how Sony hopes to differentiate its franchise from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Apparently, Sony is hoping, and this is what comicbook.com says, apparently Sony is hoping to do like 20th Century Fox and separate itself by pushing out some R-rated numbers. According to a quote here, it says the studio isn't tasking any single exec or producer with building the web of Spider-Man characters. Instead, it wants each picture to have a distinct style. That means the characters might be featured in R-rated outings or in lower budgeted offerings. Sony also isn't interested in producing just conventional comic book movies. So there you go. Right there. Now, according to what they say here as well, it also says and this is after the quote. It says, "Of course, there are some fans who will be relieved to hear such news. Movies like Venom lend themselves to darker storylines, so R ratings will be a boon for audiences looking for a more authentic take on the villain. Other Spider-Man spin-offs may benefit from restricted ratings in some way." Oh, no, wait, hold on. It says other Spider-Man spin-offs may benefit from restricted ratings in the same way Deadpool and Logan did. But an R rating alone isn't enough to satisfy fans. When it comes down to it, moviegoers will be sizing the cinematic universe up against its MCU and even DCEU counterparts. Sony Pictures has a chance to dig itself a niche in Hollywood's superhero market if it makes some smart decisions over the next year or so. And should the studio fails to capitalize on this chance, then fans will be more than happy to let Sony know it. Oh, hold on. And should the studio fail to capitalize on this chance, then fans will be more than happy to let Sony know it. Let Sony know it needs to go back to the drawing board. It says Venom is set to release this year, as Sony gave the film an expanded premiere. Currently, the feature is set to debut on October 5th. The film takes its story from a script penned by Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkett, Amy Pascal, Evan Ard, and Matt Tomick. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. The film, I should say, let me rephrase that, takes its story from a script penned by Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkett. Okay, so basically what this means is, in a sense, all arrows, all paths for Sony and its Marvel universe when it comes to what certain movies will be rated, all clues and hints are pointing towards R ratings. I mean, think about this. Venom, we all know, is perfect for an R rating, especially if you're going to have Tom Hardy as said character, if you're going to have said character on screen. He ain't doing his thing. And if you're going to probably have a villainous symbiont, maybe Carnage or someone facing off against him. But there's another interesting perspective about this as well. One the love interest in the film is Anne Weir. Anne Wein. Anne Wein. Yeah, Anne Wein. And she's going to be portrayed, and Michelle Williams is going to portray Anne Wein. Now, if you guys don't know who Anne Wein is, she is not only Eddie Brock's love interest, and I think appeared in Spider-Man the Animated Series, but she's also the first to become the very first She-Venom. That's right, She-Venom. And She-Venom debuted in 1995 in the Venom Sinners Take All issue number 2. Or actually, her first full appearance was in Venom Center Takes All #3. So yeah. So with her being in the film, either as the love interest, maybe the ex-wife, we don't know. Um, whether, like I said, whether or not she's the portrays the ex-wife or the love interest in the film, it's going to be really interesting because her being in this, whether her character lives or dies, and if she lives, it opens the door because it opens the door for a lot of things because if Sony is planning to do a Marvel universe of its own, of a more darker, grimmer tone, then She Venom being part of that would definitely open the doors. And whether or not we'll see She Venom cameo in this film, it's totally up in the air. Whether or not we'll see She Venom in a future film is up in the air. But the fact that you got the woman, the character that portrays the very first She Venom, that to me opens the doors for She Venom to arrive on the scene in Sony's Marvel universe. It really does. It opens the doors because think about it this way. Think about it this way. If you have a love scene happen between the two, who's to say the symbiont? Okay, if you have a love scene happen between the two, who's to say that the symbiont won't engulf both into some kind of globulous spear and kind of like just shapeshift around them and whatever and ever? And it's like maybe one pushes their heads out while they're getting it on, and you see like imprints of their heads pushing out of the symbiont and back down, and then it's all over, and then that's it. It's like I know that sounds a little weird and unusual to hear, but I wouldn't put it past Amy Pascal or anybody else working on this film that if they decide to put in a love scene, sex scene, whatever, they go with that route between the two. I wouldn't put it past them. So, but that all depends on what role Michelle Williams and William character is going to play as the wife, as the ex-wife, or the lover. We don't know. But overall, I know I talked about this long, so I do apologize. Overall, I definitely believe that another. I will say this: even though we didn't get much out of this one, out of this trailer, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, I believe that come around Avengers, maybe Ant-Man and Wasp, but more so between between those two movies, we'll definitely get another more full-length Venom trailer. So I would suspect between Avengers and Ant-Man and Wasp, you're going to get another Venom trailer as well, mostly a full-length Venom trailer. All right. Now, the last one I want to talk about is the Incredibles 2 one. Now, I talked about Incredibles 2 one time earlier during the about several months ago when the first teaser trailer came out. And when the first teaser trailer came out, and of course it was first announced, and someone that watched the first Incredibles movie in theaters as well as owns the film, I have to say that I'm truly happy to see this coming to be. I'm truly happy that this is happening, and I cannot wait to see what they got planned in the end when it comes to this film. I cannot wait to see what they got planned in the end when it comes to this film. Of course, recently they showed us another sneak peek during the Olympics about 24 hours ago or so. And a lot of people it sounds like a lot of people are mixed about it. It's like, it basically looks like okay, it basically looks like it's a rehash of the first movie. It's like the roles are reversed though, and it's a rehash. And mainly you have Elastigirl being chosen to try to be the spokeswoman to put in a good name for superheroes, try to bring them back into the limelight. And on the other hand, you got Mr. Incredible, Bob, being the stay-at-home dad. Now, I understand, and a lot of people will either discuss this or talk about this or whatever. I can understand that this is all part of that women empowerment kind of deal, perhaps. Women revolution, give women a chance, whatever. And that's all great. All due respect. And with all due respect, that is great and tremendous. I love to see that. I love seeing that happen, and love to see women in any way, shape, or form get a chance to shine. But if this movie is a rehash in a sense, I should say, of the first one, I don't know. I don't really know. Here's the thing, though. The trailer looks fine. It's nice to see that they are giving us more detail of what we're going to get. I will say this. If we don't get some kind of scene, because one of the scenes they show us is Elastigirl in a hotel room laying down in a bed wearing a bathrobe. So if we don't get her soaking in some kind of tub, maybe melting down in a tub, maybe she has the power to liquefy just temporarily and really get relaxed in a tub or something like that, then what's the point? And what's the point of having her in a bathrobe if you're not going to have something that happens after she calls Mr. Incredible and checks up on things, or before? What's the point? Maybe she even submerges in the water. I don't know. But it only makes sense to me that they would do that. I know that sounds weird, but this is Brad Bird we're talking about. Maybe he'll throw that in. Maybe that's an evolution of her powers we didn't see in the first one. But overall, from what I've seen, it looks good. I know that basically one of the main problems that Bob's going to have, Mr. Incredible is going to have, is not just with Dash or Violet. It's going to be with the baby. It's going to be with Jack Jack. Because apparently anytime he gives Jack Jack cookies, Jack Jack goes crazy and morphs into a demon monster or something. But it's going to be really interesting to see exactly where they go with this, because they are putting Elastigirl in her original outfit, which I think is kind of cool. So she's going back and forth between the original outfit and her new outfit, so that's good. And again, if they don't have a shapeshift into some inanimate objects throughout the film, as well as like soak in a hot tub and melt down or liquefy temporarily to kind of really get relaxed after a tough day, then okay, then then what's the point of focusing on her as one of the main characters if you're not going to develop her powers more, so show off parts of her powers that we've not seen, show off powers of Violet's and Dash's and Mr. Incredibles and even Jack Jack's? What's the point of doing this film overall if it's not going to really showcase the powers of the family evolving as time goes on, or as they do other things? So who's to say that so basically what I'm trying to say is, what's the point of doing the movie? I'm just saying. But overall, besides that, I think it's going to be good. I mean, I know some people are worried because it looks like it's going to be a rehashing of the first film, in a sense, the first film storyline. I can understand how some people might feel that because of the big 14-year gap 14.5 year gap or 14-year gap that, maybe it won't hold up. The sequel won't hold up to what people are hoping. And that might be true. But let me remind you of this. There have been movies that have had 20 to 30-year gaps in between them, 40-year gaps, sometimes before a follow-up was made. You want a good example of that? Blade Runner. Blade Runner 2049 did excellent, did great. And that takes place 20 years or 30 years later. 30 years later. Not just from a movie standpoint, sequel-wise, but from a continuity standpoint, it takes place 30 years later. And it did great. People loved it. So yeah, I do. So look, I do agree with the fact that, you know a major gap between an original film and a follow up could hurt the follow up in many ways. In many ways, but I don't think the second Incredibles is going to really be hurt that much. I mean, yeah, there might be some moments in the film that we may not like or feel, oh, they're just rehashing from the first one. Then fine, then yeah, we're not going to be happy to see that. We're not going to be happy to see that happening. But you know what? If the overall presentation, story plot wise, and everything can overcome those rehashes and redoings of scenes from the first film, I think Incredible 2 is going to be good. I think in a sense Disney and Pixar got a big hit on their hands here, and they just don't see it. I think Disney and Pixar have a big hit on their hands. Is it going to be the number one movie of the summer? Oh heck no. Oh heck no. It's not going to be the number one movie of the summer unless it really does very well. Unless it does so well that it breaks even the Avengers record, which we all know is going to get set by the Avengers movie a month later. So it's all going to depend on what they do, on how the movie is utilized and viewed. That's the way I look at it. And again, there might be moments in the movie. I mean, you look at the trailer, the sneak peek trailer that was shown during the Olympics and stuff, and you can kind of get an idea of who already are some of the antagonists in the film. You can already see that. And you can also already see exactly like what direction they may go in story-wise. Like even if it's a rehash in a sense of the first story, you can already see that they're going to throw in some elements that we've seen in other stories as well when it comes to someone being represented, being chosen to be the representation or the representative of something or something else or some kind of cause or something like that. We can already see that they're going to go down probably the success or the representation or the spotlights going to your head kind of deal with Missions Incredible. We could probably see that coming. Maybe, maybe not. But overall, from what I saw with the sneak peek and so on, I have to say it's going to look okay. I'm not going to pass judgment on it yet because we don't know exactly what the full scope is going to be until we get a full-length trailer, which I think is going to be coming really soon. I think a full-length trailer is going to be coming really soon. And we'll probably get more ideas of who the antagonists are. Again, I think we already know who the main antagonist is. It's the guy that sets this whole thing up and chooses Elastigirl over Mr. Incredible. You could have chose the entire Incredible family, the entire Parr family. But Elastigirl? Just wondering. Makes you curious. You can already tell maybe several directions story-wise where they'll go with this. But overall, I think it's going to be a good hit. I think it's going to be a successful hit for them. I don't see it breaking any real records just yet. Heck, I don't see it touching the Avengers Infinity War record that's going to be set. No one's going to be able to touch that for a while. But I do see it being a huge box office hit for Disney and Pixar. So Overall, I think it's going to do okay. And like I said, there aren't certain moments in there with character powers developing and evolving and being shown that and being seen for the first time, unlike in the first film. Then okay, that's fine. But what was the point of doing the sequel if you're not going to evolve the characters or develop the characters and the powers? I'm just saying. So overall, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the films that I've mentioned. Try to see them all. Try to see all of them and see what it's like. Um, and really, that's all I have to say on it. So, thank you all for watching live. That's going to do it for this live stream. Again, thank you all for watching live. I really appreciate it. I really hope you had. I really hope this helps you guys think about what we're going to think about the movies of what we're going to get and what the reaction and ramifications will come from it and what the aftermath will be. So again, thank you all for watching live. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching post live after it's been uploaded. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. And that'll do it for this live stream. I am out. God bless. Take care.